My name is Laura Torres Reyes, Dr. Laura Torres Reyes, and I live in Falling Waters, West Virginia right now. Growing up, my mom was a social worker. My dad was a fireman, Denver Fire Department, one of the first black firemen that integrated the Denver Fire Department. So again, very accomplished parents. And they actually worked really hard. My siblings always talk about, I don't know how my mom did it, because my dad was pretty much always, doing shifts with the fire department. She would make sure we had activities. She would make sure that we did our schoolwork. Um, she was always there supporting us, making sure that we got good grades. Did the extra work to give us scholarships to go to private schools at a young age, right? So that was just that was always like a priority is education. And so I knew whatever it's going to be, doctor, lawyer, you say whatever you want to be the best, but we always knew it had to be like, like really the best and like really the top. So I'm really just from a young age, I was always focused on doing something like that. The military part, again, because they offered a full scholarship, that's pretty much, yeah, I had an uncle who was very accomplished in the Marine Corps, but that necessarily wasn't my priority. I just knew I wanted to go to medical school or vet school. And then the scholarship allowed me to, go to a top Ivy League school, full scholarship. So that was like, okay, we'll do that. And then once I got into that groove of the discipline, and I actually, being raised in private schools and Catholic schools, uniforms are kind of cool. It's like so much easier to have a uniform. You don't have to make a choice every morning. So just everything kind of led to that pathway of my parents were always very clear that we were going to college. It was never if, but it's like where and when. So we were raised, all three of us, my sister and my brother and I, we always knew we were going to college. And so my mother was very academically minded. Studies always came first. I knew at first I wanted to be a veterinarian because I loved animals. And so really, I had great science teachers. I had great biology teachers. So science was always the thing. Um, and so at first I wanted to be a veterinarian because I was great with animal behavior and had a lot of, at Cornell, that's one of the big things they do with animal behavior. It was one of the top veterinary schools. So then when I found out that I couldn't be a veterinarian, the choice of being a doctor, it actually ended up being great. I care so much for animals that I cry at the commercials that they have, every Christmas when they want. It's like, so I would be a mess if I was a veterinarian. People I could deal with a little better because they have control. So yeah, it was always the science, and it was always like physician, MD, veterinarian. It just so happened that I ended up on the people track versus animal track. Well, my career began in the Air Force. I was recruited for an Air Force scholarship for college at Cornell University, and so I entered Air Force ROTC on a scholarship. Spent 4 years in college at Cornell. I always knew I wanted to be a physician, but then it came time to decide, and the Air Force said, well, we don't have, I'm sorry, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. And they said, we don't have veterinarians, but you can be a doctor. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll be a doctor then. So they paid for my medical school at Howard University College of Medicine in Washington, D.C., which was a great experience because previously, pretty much I went to private schools. My parents worked very hard to get me to private schools. So that experience of being a black female in a med school setting with so many like-minded, amazingly bright black individuals was just a great education for me. So out of there, I then my first active duty assignment was in Okinawa, Japan. And again, why Okinawa, Japan? I'd never been out of the country. My uncle at the time was a Marine Corps general who was stationed on Okinawa. He said, "Yes, Laura, go to the Air Force at the great Okinawa, Japan base, Kadena," which was the best decision of my life, primarily because I met my husband there. So I got on the island. My husband, Marine, on the island. We met there, got married, and I was stationed there for 7 years. Why 7 years? Because that's the only place in the world that we could be stationed together. So after he retired, I came back to the States, went to residency at Johns Hopkins University, School of Public Health, to get my master's of public health. And then my specialty at the time, and still, is occupational and environmental medicine. After that, my assignments from then were in clinic settings, hospital settings. Leadership is my forte. So I went the command track, and pretty much for the last 10 years of my 34-year career in the Air Force, I was in command billets, traveling around the country with great experiences. So, get to the shooting part. Are we ready for that yet? So that part came to be because I was getting deployed to it's an air base in close close to United Arab Emirates, and so I was being deployed as a commander, and being a command with a medical unit in a war zone, I was going to be issued the M9 to protect my patients and my troops. Most of my life, I was like, I don't do guns. Guns are bad. People with guns are bad. Now, granted, my husband, who's a Marine, I told him, you're not going to have a gun in the house. We're not going to do that. So I said, you know what? Since I have to learn how to shoot, let me go. And if you take me to the range once a day for the next few weeks, probably qualify, then I feel comfortable. So he took me out to the range, taught me the safety, showed me how you can't shoot yourself if you don't intend to. You have control of the gun. She told me how to shoot and aim and what to look at when I was looking for the aiming point of how to accurately shoot. I got very comfortable with that, qualified, and it was one of those qualifiers where you're in a group of like 15 people. Most of them are special forces people that are deploying. I was a doctor, black female. They're like, oh, there's a doc, kicked butt, nailed the qualifier. Then I deployed. Was deployed for 4 months. Came back, and I said, you know what? I really enjoyed that. I think I could start competing. He at the time was involved with what's called the International Defensive Pistol Association, which is you go to a range, you use your firearm, you have scenarios, you get very familiar with the gun, you learn how to shoot and run and move. Something that's more fun than just standing there and shooting. Got involved with that, quickly learned that's, oh my gosh, I loved it. I loved the competitiveness. I loved the strategy. Because I listened to him, I was really good at it. So, I think the best memory, and it really that's when I realized the whole universe that is shooting. So when I moved to Thurmont, Maryland, and that was because of a job that I had there at Fort Detrick. And I was looking for a range, and so I found, you go on the app and you see what's available near me. So I went there, I looked at it at the time, there was nobody there, so I said, oh, this is the range, it's a beautiful range. So, but to be a member of the range, you had to get a membership, and they had a open enrollment period membership where you'd have to go to the range and get a permit and fill out the application. And so I'll never forget. I said, and my husband Jose at the time, and I said, no, I got it, I'll go. So I got there. There were probably 100 people. So there was this clubhouse, a line of about 100 people. Why'd I drive up and I'm like, 100 people. No one looked like me. A lot of them were hunters. But it was just like, and this was a new area. Thurmont used to be the home of the Ku Klux Klan. It's not anymore. It was a great experience. But I'm thinking, am I ready for this? I said, no, Laura, you can do this. You're an Air Force colonel. You can do this. Got out of stood in line and kind of sitting there. I was on the phone, kind of listening to some conversation. Everyone very friendly. Towards the end of the line, it's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So stood out. Everyone kind of went one by one, got into this place. So I walked. When I got into the room, packed room full of like tables of everybody. And so I don't think I'm making this up. It really was that when I walked in, literally, it was like dead silent. And I'm like, literally, the room stood still. And it was just like that moment of, okay, take a deep breath. Is this they can go either way. Don't make any assumptions. Sure enough, I watered through, kind of waded through, and found an empty seat. As soon as I sat down, conversation started up again. The guy next to me goes, hi, how are you? I'm John. Good to see you. And it's like, okay, best experience ever, best club ever. Everybody, so that concept that wherever you go, there you are, you make the best of it, and your assumptions just fly out the window because they're just assumptions based on your stereotype of, as much as they thought the stereotype of me, I had that stereotype of them, and they're like, oh, well, you're a shooter, what do you do? And then, of course, then as I started shooting matches and my name got out, I was like, oh, well, don't shoot with her, she's going to kick your butt, right? It's like, I became one of them, so it's just that was the most memorable experience of, that moment of thinking, have I gone too far? And my golly, no, you can never go too far. There's always commonality among human beings wherever you go. Oh, wow. What inspires me? I think having concern and empathy for your fellow human beings. A lot has happened in the last year where I've lost my husband and my mother. And in the end, people say, how do you keep going? There's just so much in any individual that you meet, that love and that concern and the humanity that is us. And I think part of, if I ever get down or depressed, especially with everything going on in the world, is when I think, what happened to love? What happened to caring about your human being? Simple kindnesses. I'm the one that always like in the Starbucks line will pay for the person behind me just because it's fun, right? And so it's those little things of kindness that really makes my day, and really just whenever I feel down, as rare as that is, I would do something fun and nice and kind, and then it's like, okay, all's well with the world. It's really simple. I always say, we all have control of our own happiness, and it's that simple thing. If you can just find one thing that you can do that's nice or kind, or just kind of elevates the level of humankind, the person that's next to you, the stranger, common stranger, that makes my day.